Leli lithuba lokuthandaza ngesitu noma ukuzidla. Siyathokoza ngahlala phansi. Order, honorable members. The only item on today's order paper, honorable members. The only item on today's order paper is questions addressed to ministers in Cluster 1, Peace and Security. There are 4 supplementary questions on each question. Parties have given an indication of which questions their members wish to pose a supplementary question on. Adequate notice was given to parties for this purpose. This was done to facilitate participation of members who are connecting to the sitting through the virtual platform. The members who will pose supplementary questions will be recognized by the presiding officer. In allocating opportunities for supplementary questions, the principle of fairness, among others, has been applied. If a virtual member who is supposed to ask a supplementary question through the virtual platform is unable to do so due to technological difficulties, the party whip on duty will be allowed to ask the question on behalf of their member, or any other member of that party can do that. When all supplementary questions have been answered by the executive, we will proceed to the next question on the question paper. The first question has been asked, honorable members, by the Honorable M.Q. Ndlozi to the Minister in the Presidency. The Minister, the question is question 649. You are recognized.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, honorable members. Maybe the first answer to the question is no. The law prohibits minister and the deputy minister from engaging in operational activities. What transpired in Palapala in 2020 is a crime which is being attended
May I
to.
disturb you, Minister, if you can just try to be closer to that.
Am I not?
Hage.
Okay. I said, Honorable Chair, the immediate response is no. Against that background, what we want to say is that the law prohibits the minister and the deputy minister from engaging in operational activities. What transpired in Palapala in 2020 is a crime which is being attended to by mandated institutions such as South African Police Services. However, we are ready to assist relevant authorities in their work in this regard, should a need arise. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Dr. Ndlozi. Honorable Ndlozi, it's your time to ask your supplementary question. He's not on the platform. Can we have a responsible whip assisting in that instance?
Chair, can I please ask you to come back? It's struggling with load shedding.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. We proceed and ask the Honorable Make for the second follow-up question. We will accommodate Mr. Ndlozi if he's able to connect.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Minister, the President has.
I can't hear you from where I am. I'm sorry that you are taller than this mics.
Must I sit down? Thank
Uh,
you very much.
yeah, you may.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister. The President has comprehensively outlined to Parliament the processes that are underway on the Pala matter, and that Parliament has started its own processes on the matter. From your side, Minister, do you undertake to support the whole process by providing support or information that may be required by the law enforcement agency investigating the matter? I hope you don't say no.
The Honorable the Minister.
Yeah, thanks, JJ. Thanks, Honorable Chair. Our response to Honorable Make is that in pursuance of the principles of cooperative governance enshrined in Section 41 of the Constitution, we as this institution stand ready to provide support to relevant ministers and authorities in their work on this matter. I didn't say no. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is Mr. Ndlozi back? If not, let's proceed. We'll see towards the end. The next follow-up question will be asked by the Honorable Mazzoni.
House Chair, given that I'm 6'2" and far away from the mic, may I have your permission to be seated?
But you are well bent, you know.
Yes, may I sit?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. And no offense, Minister, that I'm sitting, but everyone will hear me now. Minister Gungubele, given that the Hawks are now well into their investigation, it is a great concern to us that former spy boss Arthur Fraser is now sending in information and says, and I quote, "I set out here under not conclusions, but pointers for further investigation." This no doubt indicates that state security has been aware of Pala for much longer than has been known to the public. Can we please be told as to why this information that is obviously in the public interest has been kept secret, and how long it has taken state security investigating the Pala issue to do so, or were they in fact instructed to make this issue go away?
The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Mazzoni, I think the Pala issue has created strange characters in South Africa, in the sense that there is this information which requires clarification tabled by Arthur Fraser in whatever day he did. There are processes of the state to attend to this matter. A number of institutions are engaged in the matter. Parliament is engaged in this matter. All I'm going to say is that, can we appeal for those processes to reach their conclusion? All what we should do, it doesn't matter who says what, who sing which songs, where. There are processes in place. It's the first time that I see people chasing somebody who's not running away. So all I'm saying, can you allow the processes, Honorable Chair? Thank you very much.
Thank you. IFP.
Ngibonga ithuba mhlala phambili. Or Minister, given the secret nature of the Pala incident and the fact that there is currently no parliamentary oversight of the presidency, would you not agree that the fact that the office of the president needs to have oversight exercise at a parliamentary level? If not, why not? If so, please give the information. Thank you.
The Honorable the Minister.
you very much. I'm sure our member will know when the processes of investigation in the multidimensional nature are ongoing, there will be findings. What lessons do we get from findings will enable to answer various other questions, because your question is not relevant to what we're talking about now, but it's a political engagement with regard to your view, how the president should be oversighted. Can we then await all the findings and all the recommendation, find out that platform, what sort of lessons does it give us? And in other words, I'm not dismissing you. I'm saying another patience from you is actually being sought.
Thank you very much. And now we have to go back to the EFF. Are you ready? Mr. Ndlozi is not as yet on the platform.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can I also? Okay. Because it seems that is the order of today. Minister, you have said that you were not involved in any way or form. You have also said that the president is not running away. But as we are seeing, the president is using every state entity at his disposal to cover up the Phala issue. All of it he's doing as a state president. Don't you think it's best that you advise him as the minister in the presidency to step aside and let the Phala investigation happen at its own accord and independently, so as him not being a president? Because the individuals heading those institutions will be soft towards him because he is having the capacity of a state president of South Africa. Don't you think that he must step aside so that you and all of the state entities are handling this issue as a whole with him not being in office? It have happened before. He must step aside so the Phala issue can be investigated without him. And then also you be honest. What was your role as the minister in covering up this Phala issue? Thank you very much.
Before he responds, let me remind members that Rule 1427 clearly states that you can only put one supplementary question, but it is to the minister if he wants to respond to all the questions. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Honorable member, the allegations you are presenting before Parliament have got no basis. Again, I want to state that if you were to table evidence of what you're saying, maybe there's a different way we could deal with it. That the president is controlling Reserve Bank, is controlling Hawks, is controlling NPA, is actually calling them in a rally and give them instructions. You don't have evidence. So please accept yours as allegations. We're very much confident with the attitude the president has adopted to these investigation processes. That's all our response can go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, as we proceed, we now go to question 621, asked by the Honorable Kaba to the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans. The Honorable Minister will be responding from the virtual platform. Honorable Mamudise.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Member, in February 2001, the Minister of Defense approached the Minister of Approach briefed the Portfolio Committee on Defense on her commitment to make sure that the cost of HR is brought down so that there is some equilibrium brought into the picture. And this, after doing that, she then put out a ministerial directive, which directive was to do a number of things. It was to make sure that an average and blend HR strength of 73,000 members over the MTEFF is maintained. It was to reduce the reserve force mandates to just under 2 million hours, days, I beg your pardon. It was to make sure that the recruitment of the MSDS program are resuscitated every alternative year. It was to make sure that it caps the annual increases of the regimental and operational allowances, as well as to make sure that the allowances that are paid in lieu of the scarce skills are brought down and kept. It was also to make sure that the implementation of the exit strategies and which was employer initiated, as well as the one on the employee initiated one, are considered and put on the table. Now, that exit plan, honorable members, I'm happy to say we initiated on the 1st of April 2022. The exit plan forecasts that the separation of soldiers will, by the end of 2022-2023, have produced the reduction of 1,548 men and women of the defense out. This will be at the cost of 1,868,000,000. Now, Treasury has given us 1 billion in this financial year, but Treasury has also agreed that we might reprioritize within our budget to cover the 868 million. Now, we have so far been able to process 256 offers, but already those that have been granted, because we started processing early, 433 are already out. These ones are on the table, the 256 I was referring to. In the pipeline, we have a further 500 offers that we are expected to consider on or before the 30th of November. And it is expected that by the end of this financial year, we will have seen a reduction of 1,200 members of DOD. We are also looking at the civilian section. So far, we have not started processing there, but we do know that the majority will be on the uniform side. The DOD, honorable members, have taken a progressive steps to start looking at our HR interventions to reduce the cost pressures over this MTEF. We are trying to bring an equilibrium between the costs and the boots. And therefore, we think that by the year 2025, 2026, we will be able to have brought down our cost of employment relatively down. We're doing other things other than just this. We are looking at those people who are staying at home and getting paid because they still cost us. We have instructed the Secretary for Defense as well as the Chief of SANDA to make sure that those people are brought back, they are charged, or they immediately face the disease, but we shall not be paying anybody who is not productive to the department. We therefore want to say that we think that indeed we are on the mend, we will be able to do this. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Those who usually time other people, I'm using the rules. 142.3 allows me to do what I just did. As we proceed, we will now ask the Honorable Kaba
Thank you very much, Chair. Honorable Minister, over the last 4 financial years, 2018 to 2022, the compensation of employees over expenditure averaged 2.5 billion rand per annum, bringing the total of irregular COE expenditure over the same period to 10 billion rand. To fund this excessive expenditure, the department has had to shift the funds from the acquisition and maintenance budget. This has had the dramatic effect on the serviceability of prime mission equipment, such as the strategic aircraft, vessels, and the deployment of vehicle fleet to meet the military operational requirements of the Air Force, the Navy, and the Army, respectively. Minister, in view of your commitment to balance the personnel numbers with the budget in order to contain the said over expenditure is commendable. The savings arising from this effort will be utilized to restore the core capabilities of the Defense Force and strengthen the defense industry. That said, is the minister satisfied that the recruitment as part of the military skills development system is positioned to replenish or rejuvenate the military? If not, what are the plans to ensure that the capability is also strengthened? This capability is also strengthened. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, yes, I am putting and pining my hopes that the recruitment system will kick in as expected, that that will be offset by us looking not only at replenishing and getting fresh blood into the systems. We are going to be focusing as we recruit into those recruits who will self-select immediately into the different arms of services, which will ensure continued rejuvenation of all arms of service. But we will not stop there. As I said, we are also looking at the higher ranks, because to cut down cost, you must not just be looking at taking out the middle and the lower. Those are the low cost ends. You must be looking at up there where the pay packages and the benefits are at the higher end. So we're looking at all ends to make sure that the recruitment does have an impact. We are also looking at talking to Treasury, because yes, some deviations were made to cover the cost of employment. But the truth of the matter is that the budget cuts have also been extreme. When you look at a size of the defense that we have and the budget allocation, it just doesn't make sense. So we're also talking about upping the defense budget to where it will enable us to sustain and improve on our capabilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We proceed to the Honorable Mare.
Thank you very much, Chair. Minister, the cost of employees is this year going to be over 70% of budget and unsustainable with little or no indication of change. About 40% of our uniform members are between 45 and 65 years, with only 4% younger than 24 and an average uniform age of 45 years. Of the plus minus 400 generals or equivalent PSAPs, who has got a ratio of 1 to about 180 employees, only 100 are in the 3 combat forces and defense intelligence. In the Army, that's 1 general officer for each 1,050 soldiers. How will you ensure that the aged force and leadership is significantly rejuvenated, especially in the combat forces? And if you're not willing to do that, how will you resolve the costs and the fitness challenges in the Defense Force? I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, ma'am. Honorable Mare, I am more than willing to look at that. Every trip I take, every interaction I have with my counterparts across the world, I look at the policies, I look at how they are dealing with this problem. We are already talking about looking at the bulge up and looking at the bulge down. We are already talking about looking at what the other countries are doing, because I insist, and I'm very open about it, that wars are not fought with generals. And therefore, if your structure is top heavy, you've got to do something about it. And that, my commitment is, we will be talking about it. We will be looking at the structure of the defense force. But I'm saying that for a country our size, we cannot continue to whittle it down to nothing. Therefore, what you need to do is to look at what put pressures on your HR costs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable Mafanya.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, the neoliberal obsession of your party with thinking that laying off people from their jobs. What's this now? From their jobs will magically solve our country's problems is misplaced. In a depressed economic environment such as ours, what impact will the laying off of soldiers have on the security situation in the country if the soldiers are not provided with alternative economic livelihoods activities? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
The question is good. What are we doing? Honorable Minister member will remember that the other department, the military vets, does give training to military veterans, and therefore reskilling for those if they are at the lower end and the years are still such that they can be economically active, will be given those trainings. At the upper end, we are also, if we are brave enough as a country, to start reconsidering the age of retirement of generals and to begin to look at how best we can do this, which will then be able to lean out the defense without losing the skills. And I agree with you, laying off people does not solve economic problems. But if people overstay also in posts, they do not add to the productivity of whichever ministry or portfolio they are in. And therefore, all matters must be considered and the best solution for the country found. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The last follow-up question will come through Ikosi Kebekulu.
Thank you, as Chairperson. Honorable Minister, considering that the mobility exit mechanisms will reduce the human resource capabilities of the SNDF tremendously, and the reported dilapidated and failing infrastructure and equipment of the department is contributing to a decline in overall defense and security capabilities. What progress has your department made in developing a national perspective on the level of defense South Africa needs and what it can afford to maintain? What is the position in this regard? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, ma'am. Honorable Kebekulu, we are not just releasing everybody. Every application for MEM is scrutinized. We are making sure that we are not losing the crucial skills and capability, even as we are striving to get a balance and a reduction in the HR costs. And therefore, we are making sure that we do not lose out on those skills that we need. At the same time as these, those that we can afford to allow to go so that we reduce, this is going to be offset by the next intake, which you will remember had been suspended, the next intake of the youngsters, who hopefully will be able to be trained to take over. But we must also remember that most of the services will also not allow themselves to be stripped to the bone, and therefore, service by service as they look, they will be able to say, this is the minimum requirement we can afford for now as we rejuvenate. So we will make sure that we do not lose out, that the defense is still capable of looking after South Africa. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We now go to the next question, which is question 638, asked by the Honorable Majosi to the Minister of Police, who will respond from the virtual platform. Honorable Minister.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Having looked at the questions and the answer to Honorable Majosi. Working on the order of my questions.
It's question number 638. Question 638.
Yes, there is indeed is a 638 with a little bit of confusion
Okay,
because the question I'm answering is asked by Honorable Member S.A. Lutuli, who is a member of KwaZulu AFF, to ask the minister, which is the same question with Majosi. So
On a
638.
point of order, House Chair, on a point of order, House Chair.
yes, Minister, just a minute. What is it, Honorable Ntangwini?
I think the minister is very much confused because we are in the National Assembly. Honorable Lituli from KZN is in the NCOP.
Okay, no.
So no wonder our crime stats is like
Okay.
this because we have a confused.
Order,
minister like that.
order, Honorable Ntangwini. That's not a point of order.
No, it's
Honorable
a point of order.
members.
Lituli is in the NCOP.
No,
It's a point of order.
you are proceeding now, you see.
Oh, that's-
Honorable Minister, I'm very sorry. I think Honorable Lituli is the Lituli from the IFP because the Honorable Majosi is from the IFP. They might have changed
No.
the name of the one who questioned. Can I allow you to respond to that? Thank you very much.
I found the question. Thank you very much. The Kwaceza policing area only contributed 3 stock theft cases, which is 0.86% to the Zululand district's total number of 345.
On a point of order, House Chair, no, really, can we be taken serious? On a point of order, what the minister is answering, it's yet not what the question is about. And you are still, we want to cover for him, but it's Honorable Majosi of the IFP that has asked the question, but is not answering what the question she have asked. She have asked pertaining to load shedding and the
Order.
crime stats pertaining to that. Can we please be taken serious? Please stop wanting to covering up.
Order,
Stop
member,
wanting
who
to
is
doing that.
covering up? Don't come with that. Please don't do that. No. Don't do that. No, don't do that. We must be able to assist here. What you are saying is totally out of order, Honorable Ntlangwini. Honorable Minister, we are going to restart, and I expect a member who is Honorable Majosi to speak, not the Honorable Ntlangwini. We are giving you
On a point of
question,
order, House Chair.
question, no.
No, House Chair, no, you are wrong because I can
Honorable-
call a point of order.
No,
I'm a
I've
member
ruled
of
on that one.
Parliament.
I've ruled on that
How
one.
dare you say that I cannot speak here?
No,
It's wrong.
Honorable Ntangwini,
Okay.
Honorable Ntangwini,
Okay.
please, don't do that again. Don't just take the mic and start talking. That is a warning to you. Okay, we proceed now. Honorable Minister, is question 638 asked by the Honorable Majosi of the IFP. Can we please proceed?
Indeed, Chair. We can proceed. Chair, it is true that the load sharing does put an extra
pressure on the police when they do their work, and it contributes to acts of criminality in the communities. We are also mindful that the police have always attended to incidents of criminality in communities, including communities that have no electricity. Indeed, it is an extra pressure, but there are those communities that are without electricity, without load shedding. There are quite several of them, especially in the places that there are informal settlement, like many of them in Gauteng. I think there are 700 areas where they're informal and have no adequate light around Gauteng. Therefore, the question needs to be asked, what is done across lighting the areas of which we'll continue to work with the municipalities on those things, but we also continue to mobilize the communities to be able to work with the police and communities, even when there is load shedding, and also increase the vigilance of the police, since there is an extra crime when there is this load shedding, including the stealing of the copper cables when they're not live, and stealing the other elements that work with the electricity. Indeed, we are working on that, and we hope that the time will come where there will be no load shedding, and will be able to deal with the situation as law enforcement agencies. Thank you, Chair. And sorry
Thank
for
you. Before I call on the Honorable Majosi, Mr. McClure, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. I have noted that there is someone who is helping the minister, and the minister seems to be not in Parliament. Can we assess whether it's another member of Parliament or whether it's a table staff? But clearly it is not a table staff. We will have to define whether it's allowed that someone carrying paper around for the minister wherever he sits. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. May I ask those that are responding from the virtual platform that we take where you are as a seat of Parliament, that you are sitting in Parliament. Let us proceed like that.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable Majosi.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Maybe to first start to say that I am the initiator of the question.
Okay.
But nonetheless, Honorable Minister, has there been any assessment done on the relationship between load shedding and the occurrence of crime to ensure the safety of police officers patrolling crime hotspots areas during the load shedding? Please provide full details. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and we appreciate your clarification. Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Indeed, there's been the extra cautions taken in dealing with these matters. Chair, we are aware of the, as I've said, the pressures of the load shedding. That includes the 2 members of the South African police that were buried last Saturday in Boksburg. They were attacked and killed in the place called Angelo, which is an informal place in Boksburg, where when they were doing their jobs and waiting for the mortuary van to pick up a naturally killed body, they were shot and killed. We are trying to work with the private people to put more lights where we are doing our own patrols, as we did last week, as we were dealing with patrols, late patrols in a place called Deep Slot. But indeed, Chairperson, it is difficult when there is no light. I remember that as we're doing these patrols together with the police, as we're accompanying them, you could not see a person next to you until you touch that person, because that's how dark it is in some of these places. That would be Deep Stewart Extension 1. But we are trying to work on the extra caution to the police that they should cover themselves, go there in a larger numbers so that they protect one another.
Thank you. The next follow-up question will come from the Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. Minister, latest report, you've just underspent 31 million rand in infrastructure. But I think the question is, police stations are not excluded from load shedding. When there is load shedding, is it business as usual for every police station or not? Can they work effectively while there's load shedding, while you are excluded and you're not excluded from load shedding? I think that's the question.
Sorry?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think if you can do this one first, but you'll just have to mop around Odie and I. Okay.
VS Dino.
It's Cheryl Phillips.
Okay, please mute your mics. I know you are not doing it intentionally. Please do that. I can sense when people do it intentionally and when they make a mistake. Yes. The Honorable, the Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Chairperson, the problem with the infrastructure of the police is not per se done by the police, except the very few where the stations are delegated to work on the infrastructure. Most or big portion of the police infrastructure is done by the Department of Works and Infrastructure. We work through them to find the solution on the load shedding at the stations. It's through them that we get the generators. Indeed, there are stations where you find that generators do not work, but we work hard that where we are responsible, which is a very small portion, we are responsible. Those generators are found at the station so that the work of the station continues, even if the load shedding affects that particular station. Chairperson, we have top 30 most criminal police stations. We wanted to work with municipalities and those responsible for like ESCOM to find out if those stations can be exempted so that all the time those stations are fully functional. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Moss, it's your opportunity for a follow-up question. She's there.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Minister, the challenges of load shedding may contribute to acts of criminality in the communities. We are also mindful that the police have always attended to accidents of criminality in communities, including communities that have no electricity. Therefore, the question is on the need to strengthen the work of community policing forum to coordinate the reporting of crime from communities, especially during load shedding. I thank you.
Honorable the Minister.
Thanks for the statement, Chairperson. Indeed, that's what we do. We are working with CPF's Community for Policing Forum, which is a constitutional and legislative body. But we don't end there, Chair. We also work with other structures like Neighborhood Watch, like Communities in Blues, like the traditional structures. Unfortunately, in places where traditional structures are, for the longest time, there is darkness there. Even though there are people that are patrolling even at night there, using the minimum light of their torches and all that. That happens, Chair. Chair, these structures, especially neighborhood watches, the CPFs and communities in blue are very helpful. Sometimes they patrol these dark places, especially in the morning where people, they go to work between stations and their residential areas, going to the taxi, in the taxi ranks, where there is a high vegetation and a high level of crime. So we are working with the community structures and encouraging the establishment of the community structures. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Minister. And the statement is within the rule. Rule 1425 allows that a member may make a statement or express an opinion. So it's still within the rule.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We proceed now to the Honorable Thring.
Thank you, House Chair. Honorable Minister, noting the devastating effects of load shedding on our economy and education in particular, and further noting the comments made by your counterpart in the Department of Basic Education, the Honorable Angie Mochecha, when asked about the effects of load shedding on matric pupils, said they must work around it. Now, can the minister inform this House whether any of the environmentally friendly sources of energy like solar panels are a part of the working around it plan for police stations? And while doing so, does the minister have any data or information on the negative effect of load shedding on effective crime prevention, where SAPs are not able to respond speedily as a result of the lack of energy supply? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Honorable Chair, we remain basic on the question raised by the honorable member that traditional generators will be part of trying to alleviate the problem of load shedding. On the addition of that, indeed, the load shedding does add on the commission of crime and the less resolution of crime. Chairperson, some stations have been robbed. One or two of those stations are robbed when there is a load shedding. That includes the police that have been shot and killed. It happens during the load shedding. But the idea of improving beyond the traditional ways of contribution of the generators cannot be dismissed. Any form or any other extra way can be used, Chairperson, to make sure that we are able to work around the load shedding. But Chairperson, the crux of the matter is that there are places, many of them, especially in the residence where most African people live, whether it's Kaelisha, whether it's Nanda, whether it's Deep Stewart, whether it's Gasfontein, whether it's Angelo, whether there is no load shedding, to them, they have a permanent load shedding, which is one high contributor of crime. In the rural areas, there are no electricity. In some areas, as those Cape Flats, Umlazi, Gauteng, there is no electricity, whether there is no load shedding. Until that is fixed, it will contribute in the increasing of crime. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. We now move to question number 624. Asked by the Honorable Swart to the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, and we are informed that the Honorable Deputy Minister Mashego Dlamini will take charge of the questions. Thank you. The Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Our response is as follows. South Africa prioritized reform of the system of the global governance to make the system more responsive to the needs of the developing countries, especially African countries, which continue to be marginalized, and ensure fair representation in global governance structures. This is especially true as there is a growing challenge to the effectiveness and legitimacy of the United Nations Security Council. South Africa is thus fully committed to advancing the reform agenda of the United Nations, including its Security Council. Discussions at the UN on reform take place in the Governmental Assembly's intergovernmental negotiations process. At the IGN, South Africa advocates for the comprehensive reform of the United Nations Security Council based on the common African position known as a Zuluini consensus, for the Council to reflect the current composition of the United Nations. South Africa constantly calls for text-based negotiations and early reform and will continue to stress this in upcoming discussion at the IGN on these matters. The common African position has been widely supported by United Nations member states in the IGN. The recent elements paper prepared by the co-chairs of the IGN clearly state that there is a growing support by member states for the legitimacy aspirations of African countries to play their rightful role on the global stage, including through an increased presence in the Security Council as a priority to redress the historic injustice against Africa. Africa will continue to advocate for the reform until such time as the historical injustice against it as perpetrated in the Security Council's composition is ratified. Therefore, South Africa also continue to raise the importance of reform of the Security Council in its bilateral engagement with other United Nations member states. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable Swartz.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Deputy Minister, noting that the reform of the UNSC continues to meet resistance from some permanent members of the UNSC, will Africa consider dispatching a diplomatic envoy to engage other continental bodies as well as permanent members of the UNSC on the question of the UNSC reform? Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Well, South Africa is not really in the position to dispatch any envoy, but our wish is that we need really to continue to raise the matter on the coming IGN meeting, as we always sit in that particular meeting. So that's the only weapon we have. And also for our other member states that they need also to continue to raise the same issues. Thank you very much, Chair.
Volgens is achtbare lid Faba.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, there is no doubt in anyone's mind that the United Nations Security Council needs reform. The world is starved on an apolitical, more capable body that can act against human rights abuse and terror globally. However, I'm concerned about South Africa's image in this and how it could benefit their plight when one of the superpowers of the United Nations issues a terror threat in our own country, and it seems cannot trust SA with the sensitive information enough to share it with them. What are you going to do to lobby support and to brush our all embarrassing mistakes under the carpet? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable, the Deputy Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Chairperson. Well, South Africa is deeply concerned by the slow pace of the reform, especially since the global consensus that was taking place in 2005. Already called for the early reform of the Security Council up to date. And I don't understand if the honorable member said we are brushing anything under the carpet, but our position is very clear as it is quite aware that the African position was really to make sure that we increase the number of the Security Council members and also put 2 members from Africa as permanent members and 1 as non-permanent members. And that is our position. And this is what we're advocating all along in all the sectors and the meetings that we are sitting in as South Africa. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable Msane, you are next.
Thank you, Chair. I will be taking it.
Proceed.
Thank you. Can I sit, Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. While the efforts to reform the United Nations Security Council are frustrated by the permanent members of the Council, particularly the United Nations, which uses the Security Council as a cover for the imperialist aspirations in the world, what immediately short-term measures has South Africa taken to ensure that the country does not become a pawn in the imperial games of the United Nations as a global stage, which particularly reference to the war in Ukraine and the continuing invasion of Palestine land by Israel? What sort of global pressure have South African influence to ensure that there is justice, not just wishes of the United Nations in the resolutions of these conflicts? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable members, I think as part of our position and our participation in the non-aligned movement, so together with the non-aligned, we are really exerting pressure to the United Nations General Assembly on the issues of the Security Council. But we, as a country alone, I don't think we can really make a very strong impact in that regard. But together with other countries and the whole African Union member state, we'll make sure that we'll make an impact in all the IGN meetings that will be taking place. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Sengwa. Sengwa ongutata. Ayu mama.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I will take the question on behalf of Honorable Hlengwa.
Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Given that in 2015, South Africa assumed the chair of Group of 77, have any steps been taken in the establishment of a G77 chapter in the country? Please provide full details.
Thank you. The Honorable, the Deputy Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. I don't have the full debate of the G7 now because the question was on the reform of the Security Council.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, we proceed to the next question, which is question number 658, asked by the Honorable Bergman to the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. The Honorable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Well, South Africa abstained on the resolution entitled Territorial Integrity of Ukraine's Defending the Principles of the Charter of the United Nations. On the 12th of October, 2022, South Africa abstained. We provided reasons for this action in our explanation of vote. We were of the view that in the context of the conflict escalating at the time, the resolution should also have dealt with specific measures aimed at ensuring cessation of hostilities. Our explanation of votes also clearly outlined that South Africa does not support breaches of international law. These include emphasizing respect for territorial integrity, including that of Ukraine. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Faber. No, sorry, Honorable Bergman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We know now through the presidency that South Africa has no intention of blocking the Russian-owned luxury yachts heading towards Cape Town, regardless of the consequences and signals that it sends to the international community, and that the further burden and pain it places in the stomachs of our citizens. We are clear on whose lap the ANC sits on. But Minister, do you condone or condemn the ANC Youth League being a de facto observer for Russia in their referendum that has been condemned and criticized by most of the countries in the Westlands, being set when annexed land from another sovereign country like Zimbabwe can go and hold the referendum in Limpopo and decide to just take it too? Thank you.
I hope you were able to get the question. Honorable Deputy Minister, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Well, Chair, political parties in South Africa, they've done a lot and they've been moving in and out in countries. And the Youth League of the ANC is also part of the political parties that are operating in South Africa. I think the honorable member must remember that the DA members also visited Ukraine at some other point. So I don't think there's anything that we can do as government to stop any political party to make an impact or to support whoever they want to support. But our position is very clear because our position is the one that we always table every day. So I have got no guards really. And the government has got no guards to stop the ANC Youth League not to do what they are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Faba. Honorable Faba, it's you. Where am I? Oh, this one. Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
Chairperson.
No, I'm sorry, sorry. So they put your name as the first supplementary then. Okay, thank you. Honorable Nkosi. Of the ANC. Can we have a whip of the cluster or somebody to take the question?
Thank you very much, House Chair. Honorable Deputy Minister, the South African ambassador to the UN remarked on the Russian referendum on some parts of Ukraine and said, open quote, we have abstained on the resolution because we believe that the objective of this assembly, in keeping with its mandate, must always be to contribute to a constructive outcome conducive to the creation of sustainable peace in Ukraine, close quote. What engagement is South Africa undertaking with other countries of the world to intensify the call for peaceful resolution of the conflict in Ukraine? Thank you very much, House Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And South Africa has continued to express deeply concern about the continuing conflict, the loss of life, and the deteriorating humanitarian situation, and has consequently urged to the cessation of hostility. In South Africans' view, dialogue, mediation, and diplomacy is the only path to end the current conflict. Importantly, South Africa has continued to use its voice to urge the Security Council to play a meaningful role in rallying the international community towards a peaceful and durable solution to the Russian-Ukraine crisis. So that's our position, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Deputy Minister, allow me to congratulate government for your stance in not being intimidated by the West to support one country against the other and provoke war. But Minister, all 4 regions had a referendum with overwhelming support to join Russia, parts of which Russia has been controlling before. Is your decision to abstain, which is what you resolve, in the best interest of both countries so that they can get to the drawing table rather than support one provoking the other to attack and continue with war. Thank you, Minister, Deputy Minister.
Thank you. The Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think the honorable members must understand that there were almost 4 resolutions on matters. The first one was on Russia action following its incursion into Ukraine. The second one was the humanitarian situation. And the third resolution one on suspending Russia from a Human Rights Council. And the fourth resolution was mostly recently on condemning the annexation of Ukraine territory as well as the related referendum. South Africa participated in all these meetings in the General Assembly, and we abstained in voting on all 4 of these resolutions because our stance is always that we really advocate for dialogue, mediation, and diplomacy, and also to make sure that the Security Council must do their work. And the General Secretary of the United Nations has started to do some work. So we support the work that is coming from the General Secretary of the United Nations. We therefore want them to be given space to do their work as an institution. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable Msane. Honorable Ntlangwini will take charge.
Thank you very much, House Chair. House Chair, we won't be taking it because we're told late about this question just now as we ended, so we won't be taking it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
Next
you.
time, they must tell us on time.
We proceed to question 618, asked by the Honorable Reverend Mishwe to the Minister of Police. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Yes, the following plans have been put in place to boost and improve the quality of investigation of rape cases. 1, the South African Police Service has formed partnership with the relevant stakeholders and continuously engages with key departments, namely the Department of Justice and Correctional Services, Department of Health, Department of Social Development. The above-mentioned stakeholders enable a more comprehensive approach to dealing with rape cases. Furthermore, investigating officers and their team leaders are provided with training and development in accordance with identified skill gaps. The SAPS has established a partnership with the National Prosecuting Authority in terms of which gender-based violence cases, including rape, have outstanding forensic reports, are prioritized by the SAPS forensic laboratories for analysis and provisioning of the required report. On this score, working together of the police laboratories and the NPA, a total of 16,078 cases from the beginning of July 2021 to date have been fast-tracked and taken to court. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Muruti Mishra.
Thank you, Chairperson. We know that about 5 women are raped every hour in South Africa. And rather than them getting justice for being violated, they are being failed by our weak justice system, which reportedly leaves 9 out of 10 rapists free to rape again. The most important aspect of all rape investigations is the gathering, testing, and matching of DNA samples. Yet since June 2021, the backlog of DNA samples waiting to be tested at our forensic laboratories has grown to about 81,291. When rape cases reach court without DNA evidence, then the chances of convictions become very low. What I want to know from the Honorable Minister in spite of what he said about partnership with other stakeholders and also prioritizing police cases, can the minister say to the public, there is hope that this unacceptable situation will ever change under the present government that has failed the people of this country, particularly women and children, for the past 28 years? I understand that strategies are being spoken about all the time. Partnerships with community members are being spoken about all the time, but that has not produced desired results. What makes the minister convinced now that these partnerships that have been taking place all these years are going to bring desired results this time, and women and children will then be free to walk in their streets without fear of being attacked and raped? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. The Honorable, the Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chairperson, maybe the Honorable Member Mfundis has not been very much blessed with the update of the matters of the forensic laboratories. The figures that you speak about, which was a backlog, was 541,000. That was first or last quarter of the previous financial year. That will be January to March. That ring-fenced backlog has been reduced up to date to 71,000 from 241,000. We expect that backlog to be finalized by December so that we go back in working on the ordinary, normal way of responding to this DNA and other tests. On the question of the court-ready cases, I have given the figure that we developed a relationship with the NPA to say those will be fast-tracked. The number 16,078 falls in that category. And we have corrected the situation, Chairperson, that has put us on this backlog. There were 16 unsigned or unrenewed contracts from the side of the South African police. That has been corrected. There's been the reduction of staff in the laboratories by 76 human beings. That has been corrected. There is a building up of the laboratory of Eastern Cape, which is at Gqeberha, which will take off all the weight from the Western Cape down there, which is finished in come February. And all these capacity we're building, including the overtime, will be kept there so that we don't go back to the situation where we had this. We are working, and indeed that will be resolved permanently. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Mareko. Honorable Mareko. Any whip? Proceed.
Thank you very much, House Chair. And thank you, Honorable Minister. The training and the skilling of the investigating officers is a step in the right direction, and it will sharpen their investigating capacity. Does this training include partnership with other institutions that can offer the required training? Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Yes, indeed. Chairperson, the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency President Ramaphosa, has appointed a renowned South African, Dr. Judy Dlamini, to work with the private laboratories in the Republic of South Africa to create that partnership in both provision of skills on personnel, but also working on the new ways and methods that they can use to deal with this matter. Chairperson, at Hammanskraal, as we speak, we have started the work where we are working with FBI, Scotland Yard, and other institutions from China, where we are building a specialized college where the investigation of this sort will be taught in the Republic of South Africa. Minister of Education, Higher Education and Minister of Police have met on this one to make sure that this college is built. We are training more than 900,000 who have been trained, by the way, to be at the station. But with the new recruits that are in college, there are 375 of them are recruited specially to be in this environment. Indeed, there is a lot of improvement that we're putting in this environment so that life can be better and this can be prevented, that our women are abused. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Umhlonishwa Shembeni, thuba ngelakho.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Minister, we had asked you, but sadly we won't get to that question today, whether or not you had failed the family of Namhla Mtwa who was murdered in Mthatha early this year. Why has this investigation into this matter stalled? What message is the failure of SAPS to arrest those who murdered Namhla sending to the public's confidence in the ability of the SAPS to investigate GBV cases? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Well, Chairperson, absolutely, the investigation continues. The investigation is more complicated than it has been thought. We brought the senior investigator from Limpopo at the level of brigadier, one of the top investigators in the Republic of South Africa and South African Police, to be part of this investigation. She encountered problems like threat. We had to guard her, we had to protect her. She has been changed, but we have brought other investigators, and the matter, we insist, is on the cards of being investigation, and we insist it will see the light in the court of law, and we'll know what really happens. It's not true that this has been stalled. It's not true that this has been closed. This investigation continues, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. The Honorable Heron.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister. Minister, last week I met a young 15-year-old girl in Mitchell's Plain who was kidnapped off the streets, held for 12 hours, raped several times on Strandfontein Beach, and had her throat slit. She's alive only because an off-duty police officer found her. But she was discharged from hospital a year ago without any psychosocial help. She has not been helped to reintegrate into school. And last week, her family got a call to say she's HIV positive. Minister, it's great to hear about the comprehensive partnerships, but somehow the system is failing victims of rape. Who should be case managing these cases of these young women who are raped and left abandoned by the system to fend for themselves without any social and psycho support? Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Matuba, please check your mic. Honorable the Minister.
Indeed, Chairperson, it should be the integrated approach of the government. Chairperson, the police themselves do have these facilities of psychological assistance, but that is not their core function, though they do. When it comes to the pressure like those, we approach our sister department, which is DSD, but on other time we approach our sister department, which is health, to make sure that such assistance, such services are provided. On this one, it does look like it should be the integrated of those departments, including the police. What one can just do is to request the honorable member to find further information, this one, so that one can trace if no other sister department have provided that. If not so, and those departments, especially the social development and the unit of of social workers within the South African police, they can work together in dealing with this matter. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. We now on question. As we proceed. 625. Asked by the Honorable Modise to the Minister of Home Affairs, the Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Yes, the department in conceding that we do have problems in project management. We appointed an external entity in 2021 to establish Enterprise Project Management Office, which will help us for a period of 36 months. And the scope includes project governance, project tools, and training all officials that manage projects to have defined departmental standards for managing projects. Our partnership with SARS is also providing us with project management resources to assist with the modernization project. In this regard, SARS has seconded somebody who is working full-time in the department, who is also helping with project management, but also training our people in IT so that the modernization project can move much faster. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honorable Modise.
Thank you, House Chair. Let's appreciate the Minister, the department for having maintained its healthy financial position as pronounced by the AG in obtaining unqualified audit in this financial year. The AG also outlined some weaknesses, which then the department recruited 10,000 cohorts of young graduates, which includes IT specialists. What is the progress thus far? And how are the new recruits contributing to the modernization of Home Affairs in response to the key areas, which include the backlogs and long queues? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Honorable Member, Honorable Chair, yes, indeed, as you are aware, the President announced in the State of the Nation address that will appoint 10,000 unemployed graduates in the field of IT, documents, and record management. And yesterday, the Minister of Finance announced the first half a billion, yes, 500 million rand to kickstart the project. Now, Honorable Member, on the 14th of August, we issued the first tender for the first 2,000 cohorts. We are going to take them in 3 tranches. 2,000, which must start next week in November. Then come 4,000, which will start in February next year. And the last 4,000, the last cohort of 4,000, will start the end of March or early April next year. We issued that advert. We got 85,000 applications for these 2,000 posts. And we had to screen them, and we screened them and reduced the number to 5,000. Then we screened further, and only 2,300 are going through interview processes. That will end on Monday next week. From those interview processes, we start training, and they'll start the work. That's where we are. And at the same time, when we appoint these 2,000, we'll issue the tender for the next cohort of 4,000, which, as I said, will start in February. And by April, we'll be having 10,000 unemployed graduates for the next 3 years. Thank you.
Honorable Ruas.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, as part of a promise to modernize Home Affairs systems to end the war on queues, Home Affairs reported it would modernize network connectivity within 2 years. Treasury also provided 200 million rand to assist with the necessary equipment. Yet 2 years later, South Africans still suffer with the indignity of standing in queues, long queues, sometimes having to take another day off to come back, having waited all day the previous day. Systems offline, outdated emergency power supplies, and communications equipment that fails again and again. And all the while, the minister enjoys non-stop electricity at those same taxpayers' expense. Minister, it is time to put South Africans out of their misery. What is the holdup, and when will this never-ending modernization project be complete?
Thank you. The Honorable, the Minister.
Honorable Member and Honorable Chair, in May this year, when I read the budget speech, 90% of what I said was for this issue, which I said is our original sin. We're not running away from it. It actually frustrates us a lot. And we're doing everything. And that's why I spend 90% of my budget vote talking about the issues that will be done by both Home Affairs and CETA. It's not only a modernization of Home Affairs. CETA also plays a very big role on this issue. To that, in that event, I mentioned that the Department of Home Affairs is putting up routers and switches. We've already installed 136 routers and 150 switches in the key sites. We are now busy going to procure a further 112 routers and 68 switches. On the side of CETA, they started the program to revamp their networks, because without CETA networks being revamped, we will never be able to solve this problem. And they are spending 400 million rand, and they promise us that they will finish that at the end of the third quarter of this financial year. And we are eagerly waiting for that. But CETA also implemented what they call software-defined network, and also improving their internet capacity. In this regard, CETA has already has already installed internet capacity in what they call failovers in Tshwane, in Cape Town, and eThekwini, to ensure that there's redundancy. That means a backup connection when the main line fails.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Minister. Honorable Mogale.
I'll take it, Chair.
Proceed, ma.
Minister, the issue of human resource training and the network system, we understand it, but then we want to ask you as to what you are referring to. Will it be able to assist with the IT system that is disastrous in your department? The disaster leading to inability to process applications on time and the unhealthy long queues in almost all Home Affairs offices in the country. What concrete steps have you taken to resolve this IT crisis and the crisis of long queues at Home Affairs offices? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable, the Minister.
I proposed that this question is no different from what Honorable Rose have asked. And I've already answered it, but I'll still repeat. I don't mind. I've already mentioned that the issue of long queues is because of the downtime, because of IT systems, specifically in CETA, but also in Home Affairs. That's why we're talking about these new switches and routers. That's why we're also talking about CETA reforming its networks. But the Department of Telecommunication and New Technologies, you remember that during the budget speech, their minister announced what they call South Africa Connect, where they will connect schools, clinics, police stations, and Home Affairs. And we have asked them specifically to start with Home Affairs offices Chairperson, the issues of IT in Home Affairs depend on broadband, depend on broader connectivity. That's why most of the modernized offices are found in our cities. That's where you'll get your passport and your smart ID. In the rural areas, it's still a problem because of this connectivity, which doesn't depend only on Home Affairs. And we are also eagerly waiting for the department to do this South Africa Connect, and our work will be easier. In the meantime, we thought we don't fold our arms. We're increasing our mobile units because they are all equipped, all of them, regardless of where you park them. And we only had 100. We now have 130, and we are buying another 70 because we want to double them and keep on increasing them every year because they work better than, they become modernized offices moving even to rural areas.
As you sit, may you please silence your phone? Thank you. Honorable van der Merwe.
Chairperson, I will take it.
Ma'am Hlengwa, proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Minister, considering that there have been repeated delays with the completion of the department modernization program, including key projects like the e-visa system and biometric movement control system, as well as the automated biometric identification system. What is the department doing in the interim while waiting for this system to become operational? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Chairperson, technology systems are not static. They move all the time. They improve all the time. The issue of e-visa was delayed by COVID. It's not us. Because in order to implement it, we needed people to go to other countries. As you know, we are choosing China, India, and Nigeria for that pilot. And because people could not move, borders were closed, we couldn't go on. When it comes to ABIS, yes, it is delayed. People in the portfolio committee know what has caused the delay with the company called EOH and all that, and the steps we have taken. But as I'm sitting here, we have done a lot of work. All of you South Africans, we've got your fingerprints and your photos on HANIS, the Home Affairs National Identification System. We have got 2 of your biometrics, which is a fingerprint and a photo. We said we are moving to improve by going through to ABIS, the Automated Biometric Information System, which apart from a fingerprint and a photo, will add iris recognition in your eye, will also add facial recognition, a system that can recognize your face, that this is me and not you, and the palm print. Now, we have already migrated 99.9% of South African to ABIS. So it's not that there's no work being done with the delays, yes. 99.9% of you have already been migrated to ABIS in that process. The people who are left in the whole population are 130,000. These are the people whose fingerprints are not easily recognizable. Some of them are workers who manual work has destroyed their fingerprints. Others are amputees, etc. Yes, so we are asking technical experts to help us what to do with those. Otherwise, I'll be announcing today that we have migrated 100% of South Africans, but those 130,000 are not yet migrated. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, we now proceed to the next question, which is question 650. Asked by the Honorable Heron to the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. The Honorable the Minister.
There are no projects that have been implemented as yet. Although the department consulted the Alexandra, Mpopeni, Maboloka, Mdantsane communities and conceptualized projects implementation will take place when the draft regulations on the community rehabilitation have been approved. Section 42(2) of the Promotion of National Unity and Reconciliation Act of 1995 provides that they shall be paid from the fund all amounts payable to victims by way of reparations in terms of regulations made by the President. The community rehabilitation regulations are not yet in place. Therefore, there is no money paid towards the implementation of the conceptualized projects. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Heron.
Thank you, House Chair, and thank you, Minister. Minister, amongst the difficult issues that those who were sitting down to negotiate South Africa's transition from apartheid were confronted with was what to do with the perpetrators of state-sponsored violence. The apartheid government wanted a blanket amnesty, and the liberation movements insisted that there should be some accountability. And ultimately, a compromise was reached in the interim constitution, which said that Parliament would adopt a law determining the mechanisms, criteria, and procedures, including tribunals, if any, through which amnesty should be dealt with. And then 2 years later, the TRC Commission was born, and the then Minister of Justice, Dalla Omar, said, "I could have gone to Parliament and produced an amnesty law, but this would have been to ignore the victims of violence entirely. We recognize that we could not forgive perpetrators unless we attempt also to restore the honor and dignity of the victims and give effect to reparation." And amongst the TRC's recommendations to government was to establish a fund to which individuals, corporates, and other countries could donate towards the healing of victims and the nation and narrowing inequality. When the President's Fund was established, a number of states and individuals donated to it. But as with most of the TRC's recommendations, including prosecuting offenders who did not get amnesty, government's follow-through has been lackluster. Some of the money was used to pay some of the recommended reparations to identified victims only, while a bit has been spent on educating victims' children or exhuming remains. But there's about 2 billion rand still in the bank. So my question, Minister, is, has government formally deprioritized the process of reconciliation and nation building, or does the money in the bank simply reveal inefficiencies in the administration of the fund? Thank you.
The Minister, thank you. Honorable Heron.
No, it remains a priority. Hence, the NPA unit, including with the Hawks, are proceeding to investigate and prosecute those that were not given amnesty. There are examples, including of inquests that are undergoing as we speak. Secondly, the reparations on individuals has been done, as you are aware, on the closed list of individual 30,000 rands for victims of this and the survivors identified by the TRC, including giving bursaries to the kids of the survivors, which are using to go to school, either university or high school, including medical benefits and any form of social assistance. What we are currently engaged with is the regulations with related to the housing scheme, which we will soon publish, which will also go a long way to help with the human settlement challenges of the victims and also finalizing the processes for community rehabilitation. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Niho Drachen. Honorable.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honorable Minister, what are the collaborative efforts, if any, that the Department of Justice services have with the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture regarding exhumations and the reburials of the remains of the victims of apartheid? And are the families of such victims involved? Are they kept abreast of such issues? Thank you.
Honorable Niho Drachen is here in the house. The cameras should have gone to her, actually. Please check that cameras. Proceed, Honorable Minister. There
Thank-
she is, yes.
Yeah, thank you, House Chair. Indeed, at the beginning of the drafting of the policies, there was collaboration, but now the department is responsible for the implementation of the policy with regards to exhumations, including to engage with the families for the reburials. And indeed, the families are involved in the whole process, and almost all the families have appreciated the work that is being done by the tracking team in the National Prosecuting Authority, including the exhumation team that is within the Department of Justice. It's a work that has brought communities together, has brought families together, and it's work that has brought back the dignity to be restored to the families of the victims. It's work that we continue to do, and when the reburial happens, the families come in also with the political parties that were involved, like the Pan-Africanist Party of Tanzania and various organizations that were also affected by this matter. So it is indeed a very touching process that builds and help us to build a cohesive society and to restore the dignity to the victims. Thank you.
Thank you. The next follow-up question will be asked by the Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Minister, these stakeholders viewed and continue to view the department's plan of funding community infrastructure projects in their communities as plundering the monies in the fund. It is and was viewed as inappropriately applying the funds originally meant to be paid out as reparations to individuals and communities who were most egregiously affected by apartheid practices to building critical infrastructure that was in any event the responsibility of the government. How much money from the fund has been expended on such projects, and what percentage of these have in fact benefited the recipient communities?
Thank you. The Honorable, the Minister.
Yeah, thank you. As I've said earlier on, we are still in the process of developing the regulations that will help with the community reparations processes. There has been consultations with the affected communities like Boipatong, Alexandra, Soweto, and many communities throughout the country that were directly affected by this police under the apartheid regime, the immoral violence that affected our country. So as soon as the regulations are done, we will then proceed with the project that communities will participate in identifying and recommending as the projects that will contribute towards the rehabilitation of such communities. Thank you.
The Honorable Yako.
Thank you, Chair. I will be taking it.
Proceed.
Another abstention.
Thank you very much, Chair. Following the revelation at the State Capture Commission in January last year that the government have paid an apartheid accession Eugene de Kock about 40,000 rand a month after his parole. Have you been able to find out what necessitates this payment arrangement to an apartheid assassin? If government can pay that much money to a person that have killed our fellow Black people, while it's difficult to make money available to take care to victims of apartheid, such as the Mpendule family, which has its children killed by these apartheid assassins like the Cox and other assassins in Umtata. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable, the Minister.
Yeah, thank you. Indeed, the heinous crimes that were committed by the offender were recorded in the systems, including our courts processes. And at the time of his parole, we have been able to establish that within the Department of Correctional Services, we did not pay him any amounts. It does look like there was an arrangement that he will be paid from another institution, state security, and we followed all processes to release him from our processes and our system so that no institution of the state must continue to pay him for any responsibility or for anything. Thank you.
Thank you. The next follow-up question, Professor Msima.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. People with learning disabilities are not usually given the opportunity of participating in their own legal actions or participating in legal processes. Have steps been taken to include persons with learning disabilities where possible by including social workers or other trained professionals to assist persons with learning disabilities to report offenses?
Honorable Msima, pardon me. Actually, pardon me. You are supposed to be on the next question. I'm sorry for that.
Honorable Chair. The Honorable Minister hasn't offered any answer to the question in relation to Eugene Diko.
Honorable member.
We insist that he offers a better
Honorable
answer to
member,
the question.
you just said honorable chair and proceed to speak. Who gave you the permission to proceed? Honorable member, please don't do that. Can I ask the honorable Yako to ask the question? If there's somebody who's representing. Am I right?
Which one now?
Or they finished the question? Okay.
The slippers.
Oh, that is the one that was asked by the Honorable Ntangwini. Thank you very
Honorable Chair.
much. My papers are not the same. Honorable Matthias, how do you want to be assisted? Yes, Honorable Matthias, you are
That
recognized
Honorable
now.
Minister must just offer a sound and proper answer to the question asked by Honorable Ntlangwini. What beholds the ANC government to a murder and arson such as Eugene Diko?
Okay, thank you very much.
Can he please offer a proper answer?
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, from where I am sitting, I cannot instruct anybody to answer in a different way. And we are past that question. And if you still need more answer for that, you know what to do. May we now proceed to the next question then, which is, oh, it's the same, yes, which is question 629. I'm right, no? Asked by the Honorable Maseko to the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. Our constitution affords persons with disabilities the same rights as everyone else in our society. Therefore, persons with disabilities must enjoy equal opportunities in all spheres of life, with particular emphasis on access to courts and the protection and benefit of the law. It is therefore the commitment of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development to progressively establish a court system that is disability-centric and human rights-based. In 2020, the department introduced a national strategy for reasonable accommodations and measures to access to justice for persons with disabilities to the lower courts. This strategy provides a catalog of standardized support services to remove barriers to physical, language, visual, auditory, and cognitive accessibility to the court's users with disabilities. Courts that are aligned to the minimum standards of this strategy provides, amongst others, ramps, private waiting room for survivors with a guide dog cushion and a water bowl, braille and large font information booklets, private testifying service, intermediary service, and the sign language interpretation services upon demand. From 2021-2022 financial year up to now, a total of 114 lower courts have been upgraded in line with the minimum standards of the strategy. The department has also amended its blueprint for the construction of new court buildings to incorporate reasonable accommodation for equal access to all. The same applies to the superior courts that are progressively upgraded to comply with the same. On the 5th of August 2022, the Criminal and Related Matters Amendment Act of 2021 came into operation to recognize inter alia the use of demonstrations, gestures, or any other form of non-verbal expression, including the use of devices to communicate as viva voce or oral evidence. This is yet another step towards reasonable modification of the court proceedings to ensure equal access to justice for witnesses with certain disabilities. Furthermore, I've been informed that the departments also developed a handy hints guide for court administration officials to sensitize them of the types of disabilities and the related reasonable accommodations that must be offered to create an accessible court environment for all. The department is now in the process of developing a tool to manage disability-related complaints and investigations so as to ensure consequence management and zero tolerance to the violation of human rights of the court users with disabilities. Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you. The question as asked by the Honorable Maseko will now be taken charge of by the Honorable Nivo Drachen.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable Minister.
Cameras is that side. Thank you. Proceed.
Honorable Minister, Honorable Chair, our case law states that the state must take reasonable and necessary measures within its available resources to ensure that vulnerable groups can access services on an equal basis with others. What measures are put in place to ensure that those who are responsible for the administration of justice are trained and sensitized in working with persons living with disabilities? And has an impact assessment on the implementation being conducted on the national strategy that the minister has outlined?
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Indeed, there has been implementation. Since 2016, the department has been conducting disability reasonable accommodation sensitization workshops for court administration officials. As I said earlier on, a heady hints guide is being used. I'm also been reliably informed that Honorable Nivo Drachen also attended some of the workshops to help our officials with the necessary input into the workshop that they were conducting. And during this financial year, 160 court administration officials have already received training to implement reasonable accommodation at the courts, 70 courts, earmarked for upgrading into a disability-centric court. And in the last financial year, the department introduced a new indicator in the department's annual performance plan, which call for the sensitizations of workshops that enables the officials to understand and to be sensitized how to deal with this matter as and when they have to help people with disabilities. So there is a lot of work countrywide, and we are hopeful that soon all our courts will be user-friendly in this regard. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Honorable Council Chair. Honorable Minister, in a recent reply about this particular question, access to courts and access to justice, you mentioned that 394 out of 460 magistrates' courts met that requirement of access. 14 out of 14 high courts, 1 out of 1 Supreme Court of Appeal, and 1 out of 1 constitutional court. Now, we both know that this is not correct. High courts in South Africa often depend on elevators for access. I know from my own personal experience of visiting the Supreme Court of Appeal that the elevator hasn't worked for years and the lift shaft is underwater. So it provides no access. So that answer is incorrect, but the issue is this. If people are dependent on elevators for access to justice, what percentage of people are now being sent home as a result of load shedding? and they sent home unassisted, having left home early in the morning. City's court will, there's no access and they cannot get in. And what is the backup plan of your department to assist these people? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Yeah, thank you, House Chairperson. As you have heard, the honorable member is looking for statistics. I don't have them with me now, but I can follow up to check and then provide a written response. But I can do state that there is implementation of the strategy to respond to this challenge. And as and when it is picked up, we engage with the relevant department, particularly with the issue of elevators that are a challenge countrywide. They also become a challenge during load shedding. So we do have challenges with regards to these issues of elevators, but I may not have the number of statistics as we are here now to know which case was affected and how. And with the indulgence of the House and the honorable member, I will submit a written response to that effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Yako,
Thank you very much, House Chair. I will be taking.
proceed.
Thank you very much. Minister, the reality is that most of our courts are not friendly towards people living with disability, not just from physical point of view, but from an emotional point of view too. And this is more pronounced in rural courts like Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and Limpopo. What have you done to improve the physical conditions of the courts to make them accessible to the people living with disabilities? And secondly, what sort of training have you given to court officials to be able to handle people living with disabilities? Please, Minister, may you be specific?
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Yeah, thank you, House Chair. I think this is what I started with, to give the specifics of the number of officials that were trained. I said about 14 training workshops were held, 487 courts administration officials, based at the 79 courts that were upgraded in line with the minimum standards for the strategy in the previous financial year. There is workshops that the officials are attending, and as I said earlier on, I'm glad that the Honorable Nivo Drachenberg has attended some of them, where she made an input to help also from a perspective of a legislature. So there is work that is being done. And also in terms of the upgrading the physical infrastructure to respond to this, there's also work that is being done, as I said earlier on. But we are not in denial that we still have challenges across the country in the courts, particularly in the rural areas that she has mentioned. We still do have the challenge, which we continue to engage with Public Works to help us to make the courts to be friendly in line with the strategy so that everyone can be able to access the courts. Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you. The Honorable Msima.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. People with learning disabilities are not usually given the opportunity of participating in their own legal actions or participating in legal processes. Have steps been taken to include persons with learning disabilities where possible by including social workers or other trained professionals to assist persons with learning disabilities to report offenses or act as witnesses at a trial? If not, why not? If so, please provide details. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Indeed, as I said earlier on, steps have been taken to enable people with disabilities to participate in the court processes And as a result, there has been training also of the officials to enable people with disabilities to participate through whatever form of language or means that they will want to participate in the court process, including to use experts where necessary, as said by Honorable Msimang, like social workers, physiotherapists, and the ones that may be relevant to help them to access the court processes. So all steps and endeavors are taken to ensure that they are able to participate to access justice in our country. And this work is continuing, as I said, that it will continue to be rolled out throughout the courts across the country so that people affected or with disabilities are able to access the court in any part of the country. Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you. Honorable Magwanishe, please check your mic. As we now proceed to the next question, which is question 668, asked by the General Terreblanche to the Minister of Police, the Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Yes, an integrated work study investigation recommending the establishment of the specialized capacity to address illegal mining was completed during April 2022 between the South African Police Service and the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. The investigation is at the advanced stage and currently being consulted internally and externally, and will be tabled at the Safety and Security Secretarial Bargaining Council, which is SPC, for consultation prior to the approval. Concurrent to the above mentioned investigation, a request for the establishment of the specialized multidisciplinary economic infrastructure unit, which is EIUS, was received. The purpose of the work study investigation is to determine the organizational placement, functional responsibilities, as well as the required human and physical resources for such a capacity. Awaiting the finalization of the WSI, multidisciplinary economic infrastructure task team have been established consisting of the following disciplines, Honorable Chair: intelligence operatives and operational information analysts, experienced and trained operatives within the visible policing and operations environment. 3, experienced investigators from general and organized crime investigation, as well as Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, DPCI, famously known as HAWKS. Experts from biology, ballistic, chemistry, scientific units, and the Criminal Record Center. Any other capability required to successfully address economic infrastructure-related crimes and extortion. The EITT will focus on the following areas to address the scourge of economic infrastructure. 1, non-ferrous metal theft. 2, essential infrastructure crimes. 3, critical infrastructure crimes. 4, extortion and construction and or economic sites. 5, to provide stability and restore the rule of law in the mining sector through combating of illegal mining and illicit. These task teams were combined with existing illegal mining task teams, and additional capacity, where not available, was established in identified districts across all provinces. These task teams will be piloted for a period not exceeding 1.5 years, 18 months. The number of specialized units to be established in this environment is dependent on the outcome of the study and will also indicate whether the two entities will continue in the current mesh position. The completion of the study is expected to be finalized by the end of this financial year, whereafter it will be consulted internally and externally and tabled at the SPC for consultation for further approval. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Esther Blantz. Not working. Let me stand here. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Minister, with all your futuristic good intentions, Minister, these activities are happening in broad daylight, and can you often, done by heavily armed gangs of criminals. Minister, why is there an apparent reluctance by you and the South African Police Service to act against these dangerous criminals? Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Well, I hear the Honorable Member terming my answer as futuristic. The question itself was futuristic because the question asked, what will you? But if he asked at the present moment, I hope and I believe that the Honorable Member, as a former police, would be able to follow matters. If you look very well, thousands and thousands of illegal miners have been arrested in the Republic of South Africa. 2 weeks ago, we began to move to the level 2 and 3 when the top guys in Carltonville, 6 of them, were arrested with their high-performing cars in a beautiful posh houses those people are in. Again, last week, we arrested a top and high flyer, a person that robs the pipes of the oil, found with the tanks and his workers in the house. So 42 people have been arrested and sentenced who are involved with these cases, and they are sentenced between 1 year and 26 years. So if the member follows this, he would understand. And indeed, there is a lot of work that is being done at the present moment. But the answer was his futuristic question. Hence, the answer would be futuristic. But a lot is happening as we speak. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Malekwa.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Minister, whether in establishing the specialized capacity to deal with illegal mining, will the mining industry also have a role to play in this regard?
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Yes, indeed, Chairperson. Thank you. As we've said, that we are working also with the Department of Minerals Energy on this one, but the private mining industry is involved. Chairperson, the first focused team on these mining problems was established July 2019 that had to take care of Velcom underground mines, where these Zamazamas were diverting electricity and water underground that was meant for communities there. There, when we exhausted the resources of the accommodation of the team that were put there, the industry came on board, and on many others, including private security companies in this industry, were working together. So many operations we do together. Indeed, there is a good cooperation. Much could be still done by the private industry on this one, especially when it comes to the locking and shutting down of these old mines, of which we are talking and discussing that together with them. But we are working together. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The third supplementary question is by the Honorable Shembeni.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Minister Ndosi, There were reports that prevalence of illegal mining in this country is fueled by high-ranking politicians.
I can't hear, Chair.
There were reports that the prevalence of illegal mining in this country is fueled by high-ranking politicians in Lesotho who use proceeds from illegal mining to fund their political campaigns. Has SAPS been able to verify the veracity of these claims? And if so, what cooperation arrangements have you made with SADC countries to ensure that all those involved are brought to book? Have you been able to fully assess the entire value chain and the players involved in these illegal mining activities? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks to the honorable member. Indeed, this is a SADC crime or criminal activities. As you would notice, Honorable Chair and the member, that most of the time the people that are arrested here are foreign nationals, mostly illegal, coming from the SADC countries. Sometimes quite a big number of them, they are underage, and yet you just wonder, how did they find their way from Mozambique to Klerksdorp? So far, it does tell you that there is an organized kind of movement and organized crime, including illicit movement of people. Specific question, yes, we have linked that there is a problem between the Zamazamas from Basotho and the high-ranking people in that particular country. We have made the link, Honorable Member, to try to negotiate with those members. Those negotiations, they include even the bringing back of the people that were involved in the shooting of Orlando, where many people, South Africans, were killed. We have established that those people are in Lesotho, and we are working through correct channels to make sure that those people are brought back. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Majosi. The last supplementary question by Honorable Majosi from the IFP. Any taker from the IFP?
Thank you, House Chair. Honorable Minister, considering the ever-changing and increasingly sophisticated nature of illegal mining and other crimes in South Africa, I would like to know how often the syllabus and training programs at police academies are updated to address the complexities of such crimes committed in South Africa.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Thanks, Chair. Those will be definitely fused in as the time goes on the syllabus and curriculum of training police in the Republic of South Africa. But for now, Chair, we are creating the special forces on this one and their own training, hence the successes as we speak. You saw only 2 weeks ago in Klerksdorp, where 24 firearms, including 15 AKs, including the armaments that people are using, telephones, Wi-Fi, and the lot 6,000 of bullets.
If I can suggest, maybe, if you're going to.
Honorable Sir, please. Okay, Honorable Member, we can proceed.
So all this were found, Chairperson, and the arrest even the past weekend, that comes from the specialized units, though we're still strengthening them, but there is a lot of success that is going on. Indeed, we're dealing with the present, with the medium future and the long future, dealing with these matters, including, Chairperson, dealing with the department, that the final solution on this thing is to shut down these shafts when they are left, both by the department, but mostly by the private companies that are digging these minerals there. And there is a less call on them to say, shut down and make the rehabilitation so that the land can be still usable around by those communities. That will put the end on this one. Police will be forever a temporal solution, Chairperson. But thank you, we are ready and we are working on it. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The next question, 640, has been asked by the Honorable Yako to the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. Since its establishment, the Investigative Directorate, working together with various partners, has done the following: declared 89 investigations into high-level and complex corruption, successfully investigated and enrolled 26 matters in court. Of these, 7 are considered seminal matters insofar as the extent of the impact these cases has been on the South African economy and the perversion of governance. Brought a total of 165 persons before the courts, attending to 122, 60% of the 202 recommendations of the State Capture Commissions of Inquiry. Work in this regard is continuing. Contributed to the obtaining of preservation orders by the Asset Forfeiture Unit in excess of 12 billion rands. The overall capacity of the ID has a staff capacity of 112 individuals, consisting of investigators, prosecutors, analysts, and support personnel. This capacity is in the process of being significantly strengthened further through the recruitment of specialist skills. This is due to the additional resources which the ID was provided with in its budget for the 2022-2023 financial year, as you will have heard yesterday from the Minister of Finance. The magnitude of the task faced by the ID, however, requires continued investment to be made in the strengthening of the skills and the technology and the capabilities of the ID, because crime and corruption is evolving. The ID must also evolve with the time. The establishment of the ID as a permanent entity within the NPA and the provision of the investigators with the requisite investigative powers, as announced by President Ramaphosa, will also go a long way in expediting investigations while ensuring greater organizational stability through the creation of security of tenure of the ID staff. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
I found the table.
Honorable Peggy. Honorable Yako. First supplementary question.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Please note that I'll be taking it on behalf of Honorable Yako.
Please go ahead.
Minister, what impact has the change of leadership from Advocate Cronje to Advocate Johnson had on the ability of the investigating directorate to conduct thorough investigations? And were the issues which led to the departure of Advocate Cronje been resolved in as far as there may be conflict between the ID and the leadership of the NPA? And lastly, whether following the announcement by Mr. Ramaphosa that the ID will now be made a permanent unit within the NPA, there are plans to go after high-profile corruption cases such as Steinhoff. Thank you.
Honorable members, please let us try to confine ourselves to the rules. No more than those questions asked.
We touch Steinhoff, we touch Parliament.
No more than one question at least. Honorable Minister.
Honorable House Chair is the President of the Republic of South Africa, who has established the ID through a proclamation. And it is the President who has announced that the department will be taking steps and measures to amend the NPA Act to enable them to now have the investigative capabilities. This is the demonstration of political will by the 6th administration to enable the ID to function. And I can state that the departed head of the ID, Ms. Kronje, did a sterling job. She laid a very good foundation for the ID. There were challenges, Honorable House Chairperson, because like any other institution, if you start an institution, it means there is no one in that institution. She had to recruit, she had to deal with human resource issues, engaging with DPSA, engaging with National Treasury, engaging with the department. She had to look for a building. There were a lot of back and forth between the ID, the National Prosecuting Authority, the department, and all that. So that was work. And when you do work, there is bound sometimes to be differences. There is no working environment where people, all of them, work like flock. Maybe it's only in the EFF, but in any other institution, people in the working environment, there are disagreements, they agree, they move together. And in this regard, she laid a very good foundation for the ID to be able to work as a cohesive platform. And as we speak now, the current head of the ID is reaping from that foundation that was laid by the departed leader, Ms. Kronje, Advocate Kronje, who did the sterling work. The current leader of the ID.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Thank you. Thank you.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Ramolubeng. The Honorable Ramolubeng. Will the whip take over if she's not here? Are you taking it, Honorable Member?
I am Ramolubeng, Chair.
Go ahead, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Minister. Given the examples in the case law where parents deliberately refuse the other parent visitation rights or rights to access their children, what steps has he or his department taken, the minister? What steps has your department taken to educate the public regarding A, the minor child's right to maintenance, and B, reasonable visitation rights or access to a minor child's parent? Thanks, Chair. House Chair,
Thank you very
on a
much.
point of order.
What-
On a point of
What's
order,
the point of order, Honorable Member?
there is a total new question. And you will know it, Honorable
Thank
Minor,
you.
and the rules is
Honor-
pertaining to that. It's a total new question. Let's be fair. Stop being biased. Sorry,
It's not your
Honorable-
space.
Honorable
It's the
Ntangwini,
stop being biased.
Honorable Ntangwini,
It's a new question.
Honorable Ntangwini.
It's irrelevant.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ntangwini. It is the discretion of the minister to reply or not to reply. Honorable Minister,
Thank you.
On a
Thank you.
point of order, Chair.
Honorable Ntangwini.
But the rules is like clear. It's a new question.
It's fine.
Stop
It is
speaking
really-
on behalf of
it's
the
really-
minister.
it's really
Minister will
about-
speak for
I don't know why is that idiot still talking
Honorable
on there,
Ntangwini.
because I'm standing here. I don't know why a person just coming up and wanting to learn to speak,
Honorable Ntangwini,
because she wants to look relevant somewhere where she is in a beer
Honorable
hall
Ntangwini,
and she thinks we are in a beer hall.
Honorable Ntangwini. I am making a ruling on your concern. Could you please give me a chance? I am saying whether the question is relevant or is not relevant, it is the discretion of the minister to respond to that. Will you please give the minister a chance to say whatever that he wants to say in regard to the question? Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, Honorable
Chair.
House Chairperson.
Yabo, Honorable Peggy Hadebe.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Tlangwini has used an unparliamentary language and referred a member was speaking before with an unpalatable term. Can she please withdraw that?
Idiot. The term was idiot.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Apparently, Honorable Tlangwini, have you referred to the Honorable Papo as an idiot?
House Chair, I didn't. To the Honorable Papa, no, I didn't. Honorable Papa, no.
Okay, we will listen to enhance that and resort and come back with the ruling. Honorable Papa.
No, the issue relates to her actually talking. He was talking about the member Ramlube, who she called an idiot and also invoked a question of a shebeen or a bar.
Okay, thank you.
House Chairperson, may I please address you?
We'll make a follow-up on that. Could you please?
House Chair, may I please address you? House Chair,
Honorable
you are just
member.
allowing members of the ANC to stand up without being recognized.
But
And
we
you
have
are
just-
allowing them to speak without them being recognized.
You have just done that,
But you're allowing them.
but we have just done that
But you're
yourself.
allowing them.
No, come. Honorable member, please. Can we focus on the work at hand? Honorable Minister, you are on the platform.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. Indeed, we do allow members of the public visitation, and there are procedures and processes that we do educate the public how to visit in the correctional centers. I am responding to this question because in the past, I have also used my discretion to respond to questions from the opposition, which were new and which were not relevant. But the question, indeed, we do educate society. We do follow all the processes of the department. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The Honorable Advocate Bredenbach.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Minister, having acknowledged that the investigating directorate will, going forward, be a permanent structure within the NPA and have an investigative responsibility, how do you and your department envisage giving effect to the requirement of the STIRS requirement, the STIRS criteria set down by the Constitutional Court in the Glenister judgment? Because at the very least, the establishment of the ID within the NPA will not meet the last requirement, that of security of tenure.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Yeah, thank you, House Chair. Indeed, the department has started the process to draft the legislation, to also consult and engage with the relevant law enforcement agencies in the space. We will also be guided by the reports from the Kapembe Commission. We will also look into the Glen Vista judgment related to the DPCI and also the United Nations Conventions on Corruption, a model institution to deal with corruption. So indeed, all the issues that the honorable member is raising will be considered and will be taken into consideration as we bring the bill through cabinet and also to parliament. The issue of security of tenure is also an important issue that the president said will need to look into, including the process of appointing the National Director of Public Prosecution. It's a process that we're undertaking. Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The last supplementary question by the Honorable Professor City. Simang. Babu Msimanga. Babu Msimanga. Ithuba ngelakho.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. As the lead investigation team in fighting state capture The investigation include, the investigating directorate roles and responsibilities include the building of multidisciplinary teams drawn from key partners. Has the investigating directorate taken practical action to realize these responsibilities? If not, why not? If so, please provide details of how these multidisciplinary teams are influenced by international best practice. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Yeah, thank you. Indeed, it does take that into account. As we speak now, the investigators in the ID are seconded from the South African Police Services section of the DPCI, which works hand in hand on prosecutorial guided investigations. The ID is also benefiting from the data center that came from the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, which carries millions of amounts of data that are expected to be used in the process of their investigations and prosecution, but also some of it could be used by other law enforcement agencies. This does take into consideration other international agencies dealing with the similar crimes that need a multi-pronged or multidisciplinary type of work and action, and they do work with other law enforcement agencies as and when the need arises. Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Shall we proceed to question number 631, which has been asked by the Honorable Peacock to the Minister of Police. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, Member. The condition of the buildings and new needs are captured in the User Assets Management Plan as mandated by the Government Immovable Asset Management Act, Act number 19 of 2007. The prioritized police stations for repair and upgrade or repair and renovations are captured in the South African Police Service Infrastructure Development Program, and the projects are registered and executed in line with approved IDP. The National Department of Public Works and Infrastructure is responsible to run finances and execute the planned maintenance projects for all non-devolved police stations. In relation to the leased buildings, the terms of conditions of the contracts dictate that the responsible party for the maintenance of the building is the landlord. Where the responsibility is the tenant, SAPS will execute maintenance in line with the day-to-day maintenance and repair. There is a table below that is quite long, Chairperson, that can be submitted to the member of those buildings that have been devolved. But in per se, the question of Manzimtoti Laboratory is worked on, and we have no option but to move it from Manzimtoti to the better building in the city center as those processes are taking place as we speak. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Peacock.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. The update on the plan projects over the current MTF is encouraged or is encouraging. However, there are buildings that requires urgent interventions, as the example of the forensic lab in Amazindodi. Will the department prioritize such buildings urgently? I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Chairperson, as you speak to the minister that is without the office. The office was supposed to have been given 2 years ago, but there are things that are still done in that particular office, not done by the Ministry of South African Police Service. It has explained that responsibility is with Public Works and Infrastructure. Specifically, the question about Amanzimtoti Laboratory. Last week, the head of the supply chain management of the South African Police met with the forensic and laboratory people in KZN, with the city of eThekwini, together with the management of the police, where they are working on the movement of the Amanzimtoti laboratory from Amanzimtoti to the city center of eThekwini. The reason is one, Chair, that Amanzimtoti laboratory has flooded 4 times. And people have tried even to divert the river so that the river doesn't go to the laboratory. But the river breaks that diversion and goes there. So we believe that with the assistance of the Sister Department Public Works, we will be able to move the Manzimtoti laboratory to the better place so that that laboratory functions maximally. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The second supplementary question is by the Honorable Whitfield.
Thank you very much, House Chair. The state of police infrastructure in South Africa is disgraceful, and the blame for this lies squarely at Minister Patricia de Lille's door. But the question is, what is the Minister of Police doing in Cabinet to take this fight on behalf of SAPS members directly to the responsible minister? We have collapsing ceilings, leaking pipes, broken walls, and these are only the problems that we can see. What's underground and inside the walls are a far greater problem. We know that the Amanzimtoti laboratory has been flooding repeatedly for a number of years. This has led to delays in the DNA analysis, which as a consequence has added to the DNA backlog in the country. At the very least, can the Minister of Police, who is responsible for forensics, confirm that the completion to the upgrade of the Gqeberha laboratory in Nelson Mandela Bay will be done by February 2023 so that it can assist with the incapacity of the Amanzimtoti laboratory? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. The member, as he sits down, he knows himself that all efforts are made, including the meeting of both portfolios of Public Works and portfolio of police, so that this can be fast-tracked, that these buildings that are falling apart of the South African Police Service are really taken care of by the responsible department. But on the last question of Gqeberha, indeed, that laboratory will be finalized on the month of February, and it will be, as we speak, is functioning. It's got 54 members of staff. 22 of them are upgrading their training in terms of analysis, but there are 24 more BSc students that have been recruited to be trained so that when the time comes and we fully capacitate it on the 1st of April, since it has been launched in February, then it begins to run. And indeed, that will pull off the heavy load on the laboratory in Western Cape. And indeed, the members will be happy to see that laboratory beginning to work come February, fully capacitated come April. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Baba Shambeni, that supplementary question.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Minister, one of the most unforgivable aspects of SAPS operation is the fact that you continue renting buildings from the private entities, putting the security of the nation at risk. Have you considered putting an end to the practice of leasing buildings to be used as police stations from private entities? If not, do you not think this constitutes a threat to national security? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Well, Chairperson, the South African Police Service, like all or most government departments, we are not doing this leasing on our own. It is our sister department on our behalf that does it. To such an extent, Chairperson, that sometimes as a user department, you are in the building that is itself declared as an unsafe building. But at the later stage, you find that the lease has been extended by the sister department that is responsible for this leasing without even informing the police. Indeed, there are buildings that if it were on the powers of the police, we would have really relinquished and left those buildings, including some buildings that are leased to be the houses of individuals, and some buildings that are in a very unfriendly circumstances for the police to work there. One of those will be Manzimtoti Laboratory. Maybe this question is linked on the question that was raised by Honorable Wakefield to say the time maybe will come where the police will do their own leasing, building and maintenance. We think life would be better under those conditions. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. And the last supplementary question is by the Honorable Majosi.
Chairperson, she has a connectivity problem. I will take it.
Yeah, well.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, in light of reported growing cases of irregular wasteful expenditure, a growing backlog in DA processing and major underperformance from the SAPS detective units amid the rise in armed robbery cases and senseless killing around the country. What is this department plan to ensure that it is not only recovers that wasteful expenditure, but to also address the backlog in DNA, Phoenix processing, which has been persisting for some time now, and to ensure that the detective unit perform accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chair. I thought Honorable Member Ntangweni would have helped me on this one about the relevance and all that. But having said that, the question raised of the DNA has been answered several times, even on this session. I'm not sure about the detectives, but the issue here is that we would love that all units of the South African Police, including detectives, laboratory, special task force, TRT, NIU, FCS, all they got the relevant building from the sister department. That's what we need to work on it, and that will make the work of police better, and that will make the police to increase their productivity. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The next question is number 633, which has been asked by the Honorable Marke to the Minister in the Presidency. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The National Security Council, having met on the 27th September 2022, in its deliberations, it recommended that the draft national security strategy framework be presented to Cabinet with a view that once recommended, it will then be taken to Parliament for further discussions and thereafter taken to the public for further engagement. The public consultation processes will be decided by Parliament. The public will decide by Parliament wherein various stakeholders will also be afforded an opportunity to make inputs into the draft before it goes back to Parliament and Cabinet for the President's approval. Like it was recommended in the high-level review panel report, The final strategy will be declassified to allow for greater accountability and transparency. The aim of the declassification, unlike the 2013 version, is to ensure maximum participation of South Africans and to further rally the people into an understanding of national security in order to serve as the first line of defense and also to ensure that they participate in the security of the country in general. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The Honorable Market.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I think the minister was spot on. I don't have any other question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mazzone.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Minister Gungubele, it is quite obvious that the state security has been in quite a bit of shambles, and at the moment it doesn't even have an Inspector General, because this House approved the Inspector General, but he has to work out his notice period where he is presently, and he'll only be allowed to take up his post once that notice period is finished, which means at this stage probably June or July of next year. There's obviously emergency protocols that are in place. We know that the country has to have emergency protocols that are in place. So shouldn't we actually rather ask this question? Are the spheres of government in the security cluster, including police, intelligence, military defense, not to mention the JSCI, all briefed correctly and not working in separate silos, which results in a lack of understanding as to whom responsibility must be allocated to?
The Honorable Minister.
Honorable Mazon, as far as I'm concerned, the appointment process of the IG is on the desk as we speak of the president. So my own anticipation, the IG will be at work soon, but I cannot say exactly what date. Well, having mentioned all the structures that you've spoken about, you will remember that there was a moment where the High Panel Review critiqued the relationship between NICOC and other structures of intelligence in terms of being liable to present their information through the absence of the regulations which are supposed to take care of that. We've actually processed that now. All those initiatives seek to address, which I think you're concerned about, seamlessness in all the relevant structures. A lot of work is done as we try to stabilize SSA and all other relevant institutions in the context of a security cluster that is coherent, to make sure that the seamlessness that you speak about is addressed. It's going to be a process, not an event. But I appreciate the issue you have just raised, if I understood you properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Could have made it a bit louder than that. Thank you very much. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Hugh Ndlozi.
House Chair, I'll take the question on behalf of Honorable Dr. Ndlozi. Look, we all know that in 2021, more than 350 people died as a result of the civil unrest in the country, when the state security agencies bungled from one crisis to another. We need to know, Honorable Chair, has there been any official of the state security agency who has been subjected to disciplinary proceedings as a result of these intelligence failures with regard to the unrest? If the answer is no, the question is why? If yes, can we be provided with details of these officials who have been held accountable? A minister lost a post last year as a result of this. Heads ought to roll, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Well, the underlying reasons of June 2020, of July there are many theories and a temptation to be very simplistic about the causes. But the high panel review spoke, Professor Sandy spoke. Against that background, a series of interventions have taken place. One of the priority one was to stabilize the senior management, which we have done. Numbers of colleagues within the institutions had actually to be subjected to disciplinary process, other names being submitted to ID to actually deal with their investigation. A number of these got suspended, others it fired, others are still on the queue. There's a lot of other processes with regard to what you would refer to as consequence management, based on a number of commissions that were actually on the wrong side of the doctrine of the institution. So indeed, have rolled. Others are on the queue to answer for themselves, but I'm not here to mention which names. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The last supplementary question is asked by the Honorable Tabekulu.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Mhlonishwa, I'm not sure whether maybe I understood you well when you responded as the oral member Mark was saying you were spot on, but I think I need to raise mine as well, because it might be in line with what the answers you're giving. What measures would your office be taking to ensure that South Africans are given the opportunity to actively participate in the development of the national security strategy? And what assurance is there for the citizens that there will be they will no longer be delayed regarding the strategy? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister, you can respond.
Siyabonga baba uCela. A consultative framework has been drafted, which outlines how the public consultation process will be undertaken with stakeholders, which include, amongst others, NGOs, business, think tanks, academia, media, and the general public. It is envisaged that specific communities across the country will be engaged directly. Upon completion of the public consultation process, the inputs will be incorporated into the final version of the National Security Police and National Security Strategy, which will be tabled at Cabinet before its approval, its final approval. The National Security Strategy consultation process include Parliament Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, of which its members will also extend the National Security Strategy consultation to their constituencies with a view to involve the people of our country in the finalization of the National Security Strategy. This consultation will also lift up awareness of the people of South Africa on issues of national security, including and encouraging them to be patriotic to their country on issues of national security. And I want to repeat the word that this time it will be declassified. It's going to be a national instrument where all South Africans are participating, increasing the capacity to deal with the security of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Question 635 by the Honorable Basoko to the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Department of Defense is fully committed to the implementation of the commitments that we made in the Aerospace and Defense Master Plan. We also set out clear plans there how we intend to be growing and to be sustaining the industry. We are very clear that the DoD's expenditure on SMMEs also point us in the right direction. If you look at our current expenditure, the period between the 1st of April to the 30th of June this year, We have spent, for those requirements that are under 500,000 rand, we have spent 202 million plus, which went to the SMMEs. This is important for us because we achieved this through the use of the preferential procurement regulations of 2017. But the truth of the matter is that to grow this sector, you have to also focus on what we are doing in defense and what is happening under DTI, because that department also has an element where it participates in this whole atmosphere. We must say that AMSCO has a program which sets out and identifies the young people and incubates. It also has a designated program which focuses on women. And therefore we think that, like other countries, we might be able one day to come back and say, this is where we are going and this is the specific percentage in our budget that has been set aside both for innovation and for encouraging these MMEs. So I want to say that yes, we are there, but we are not quite there, because what we need to work hard for is to make sure that the defense industry as a whole is resuscitated, so that when you then start doing what we are beginning to do, that is approaching the original equipment manufacturers to incubate, but also as they come into the country, to begin to look at empowering our SMMEs across the board, and specifically those of young people, of military vets, and of women. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The Honorable Pasoko, first supplementary question.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Minister, the initiatives by the department to create opportunities and support SMMEs is encouraging, given our agenda of economic transformation. But the question is, how are these initiatives linked to support by the Department of Small Business Development to ensure a coordinated support to SMMEs, especially in the defense industry? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister.
Chair, yes, there has been talks which have not really been formalized and taken part between the ministers of defense and small business, especially as we are looking at the new intakes and we are looking at the resuscitation. So far, those plans are not in black and white, but we do know that most of the SMMEs would benefit quite well if they also have the support. We're also looking at the defense industry at exploiting our IP for those things which can be commercialized for home use. And that is where we also think that you can create a niche for the small and medium enterprises, especially those led by women in the country. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Mare.
Thank you very much, Chair. Minister, in a letter to the Portfolio Committee, the Secretary of Defence has confirmed that there are no funds for Project Hoefyster over the medium term beyond phase 1. The upgrade of the Ratel has now become very relevant and very urgent. Are you prepared to commit yourself to use local defence industry businesses to do this upgrade? Like, for instance, OTT Technologies, with a majority shareholding by military veterans and with a proven record to upgrade old Ratels, which are now successfully being used by Rwanda in Cabo Delgado. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Honorable Mare, I am quite committed. I actually do think that I should soon be getting a report on Hoefyster, because there has been some movement there. And of course, it will be a proud moment if we can integrate and if we can create space like in all other countries where your military vets have not only come in as small businesses, but actually own businesses that we buy from. We must do that because the knowledge they have, the skills they have will actually enhance our capabilities. So yes, I'm committed to that. And as I say, I do have good news, which I cannot confirm here until I have a written report on my desk on the specific project you are referring to. On the other hand, we must also be looking at how else we will be doing this. Do we have a specific percent? We do not have, as a country, we did away with R&D in our budget, which I think is a bad thing, because R&D enables the department to invest in research. It enables the department to be flexible in bringing in new players. As it is, we must now go around and speak to others to do what we should be doing. So we're looking at all that, the weaknesses in our budgeting, and hopefully we will be able in the future to do what needs to be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The third supplementary question is by the Honorable Kabekulu.
Thank you, Chair. Chairperson. Honorable Minister, given that globally military spending is on an upward trajectory as global tensions rise and the need for defense spending is also rising, how has the impact of the global chip shortage, load shedding, and the poor implementation of the aerospace and defense master plan affected South Africa negatively in our efforts to acquire military defense equipment? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, Honorable Kabekulu. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the globally budgets are going up because there is a threat. We are also looking at seeing that we can get Treasury and the National Security Council to verbalize and to help us on this one. But to be on the positive, for once, I think the other parties must join up with the governing party, which has taken a resolution as they looked at issues of defense to ask that government go back to looking at an allocation to defense, which is not less than 2% of the GDP. If this were to be supported and if this were to happen, we would be able to go back to making sure that defense regains its capabilities and its glories. We have also been looking at challenging, for instance, your defense, your military or military specific military members funds, which is outside, which is their own funds. We have asked them to look at a possibility of also investing in the defense industry because it is done everywhere else, so that you do not only look at state funds, but you also look at private funds, which would come together to help us drive. Are we affected by load shedding? Yes, we are. But it is interesting that South Africa is actually at the forefront, even though we have not exploited this fully here. Rotec is working on technology to deal with this, but we are also looking at what is beginning to happen under the works formation, or where solar panels are being put in, where we are hopefully going to be looking at other sources of energy within the department to ensure that we are not completely paralyzed. It would be a shame. We are also looking at the fuel part of it, and we are hoping that soon we will be able to look at both the electricity and fuel and see how independent we can make the defense force. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, I've been informed that a request for the last supplementary question was not received. And the time allocated for questions has expired. Outstanding replies received will be printed and answered. That concludes the business for the day, and the House is adjourned.